On May 28th, I reached a settlement out of court with my property management company. In this episode, I'm going to talk about the events leading up to that and exactly what that settlement is. But first, let's roll the intro. Welcome, my friend. Seven Gray here. Thank you for joining me for this episode. I struggled long and hard about the contents of this episode because it's so toxic. I really don't want to present these types of things on this channel where I try to present positive, uplifting, and nurturing content, things that I share in my own life, things that I'm passionate about. This is not one of those. If you're looking for that kind of content, please skip this episode. But this channel is a vlog. A vlog, by definition, is a video diary, a video log of your daily events in your life. And so I have been going through an extreme crisis with my property management company, damages by a tenant to my property in Lakeland, Florida. And so these episodes through this particular period of time are dealing with that. And so this episode is dealing specifically with two events that happened. One of those on May 24th, which was a phone call, and the other on May 28th, which was a email exchange between myself and the property management company. Let me explain the events leading up to the phone conversation on May 24th. This is just prior to Memorial Day weekend, and the previous 4 or 5 days, maybe 6 days, I started sending a number of emails over to the property management company. After arriving in Lakeland, Florida on May 15th, I started investigating intensely the activities of my property management company and those of the tenant to try to get to the bottom of a number of things. And I started discovering all sorts of discrepancies in the bookkeeping, in the financial numbers, in things I was being billed for, things I was being told, things that tenants told me. I just kept uncovering more and more things every day that led me to have serious questions about the integrity of my property management company. This all led to a phone call, a conference call that took place on Friday, May 24th. At the beginning of the phone conversation, I asked permission to record the conversation. Florida is a two-party consent state, meaning that you have to have consent by both parties to do a recording, meaning myself as the first party, the management company, the two owners as the second party. They consented to being recorded. They did ask, as a second point to that it never appear on YouTube, and I agreed to that. What ensued after that was a very long, heated, and very intense phone call conversations, and lots of accusations were made by me of the management company and asking for explanations. I don't feel that I obtained any sufficient or good solid answers to the behavior of the management company. I feel still to this day that they were unethical. I feel in many instances that they pursued illegal activities. And so I had extreme doubts about the company. About 18 minutes into the phone call where we were making accusations, I was threatening lawsuits against them for unethical behavior, negligence, illegal activities, a number of things. They were threatening lawsuits against me for slander and extortion. And so it was a very heated discussion. And it's at this point that one of the owners makes the following comment to me. Based on emails and speaking to my employees, we are doing our best to resolve these issues, but Seven, I think it's best that you find a new management company. I think the wounds, as you put it, are beyond the point of salvaging. So at this point, basically, he fires me as a owner of a property and as his customer and asks me to go seek someone else for property management services. At the end of this phone conversation, we made several agreements. First, they wanted me to never use their name of their business, which is the two last names of the partners, in any of the YouTube videos or on social media. And so I agreed to that. They agreed in response to pay for damages to the baseboards of the property and to supply a replacement refrigerator with an ice maker, which I was not crazy about having, to the property. So I agreed to that. They also agreed to collect the June rent from the tenant who had vacated the property. or at least attempt to do so. So that is the essence of the agreement during this phone call. What happened after that during Memorial Day weekend is someone pointed out that I was now living in my property and that we could no longer legally collect rent for June in a property that I had occupied. And not only that, technically I owed them prorated rent from the time that I occupied it on May 15th. So I ended up later compensating the tenant $450 for the prorated rent during the time that I had occupied the property. But the result of that was that verbal agreement made during the phone call no longer could be enacted, and so we needed to revise that. So I came up with 11 points, which I emailed to them immediately following Memorial Day on May 28th. So May 28th, I sent over an email, and it's 11 specific points which they agreed to. Let me go through those 11 points. Okay, the first of these points was that I agree not to mention the business name, and again, it's two last names of the partners, or any slight variation of those two last names, anywhere on my YouTube videos or on social media. If they do find somewhere in 540 videos in the past that I've mentioned this name, that they can contact me and I will remove that video, edit it, and repost it. So that was point number one. Point number two, I will not pursue legal action in a court of law against the property management company for any occurrence prior to this May 28th deadline. I sort of regret doing that because I uncovered so many things after May 28th where I found what I would consider illegal activities, and I discovered all sorts of things that happened after meeting with tenants and digging around and talking to vendors. I feel this company was very unethical in their business practices, and in some instances they were definitely pursuing what I consider illegal activities. I guess it would be up to a court of law to determine that. But anyway, I agreed to that. I'm still going to stick with that. Moving on, point number three. The management company agrees to pay me a set fee for damages to the baseboards. Point number four, they agreed to give me compensation for the refrigerator so I could go out and buy my own fridge. Point number five, they agree on May 31st of that month to cease as my management company and dissolve that relationship. Point number six was that they would send notification to all of my tenants of the change in management, that they would no longer be my management company, and I've chosen to do self-management. So I'm going to be managing the properties myself and not using management companies anymore. My trust is completely shot for management companies. I don't think I can ever trust one again, and so I'm taking on this myself. Point number seven is that they transfer all security deposits of the tenants over to an account that I had specified. Point number eight is that I would start collecting rent on June 1st. Point number nine is that I would work with the tenant that had broken the lease to give them a prorated refund for a half month from the time that I occupied the property on May 15th. Point number 10 is that they email me a 1099 tax form for income that was obtained throughout the year so that I have this for filing my taxes. Point number 11 is perhaps one of the most interesting points out of this agreement. Let me read this to you verbatim. All verbal, oral, or recorded conversations prior to this agreement in this email dated May 28th will be null and void by mutual agreement. So this means that entire phone conversation that took place on May 24th, anything that was agreed to in that phone conversation is null and void, as well as any agreements made over the phone. So that is the agreement that we came up with. I'm not personally too happy about this. But it's one that I wrote, and it's based on the phone conversations. It's a modified version of that, and I'm going to stick to it, and I'm going to honor it. Although I'm not pursuing in a court of law action against the property management company, the tenant that broke the lease there, she is filing complaints with the Better Business Bureau, with the DBPR, which is the regulatory organization in Florida that oversees property management companies. So she's going to be filing with them, and they will be looking into and investigate a number of activities in relationship to how the property management handled monies and their lack of communication and providing receipts at her request. And after reviewing the numbers, I think she has a very strong case, and so I think that the DBPR will probably at some point be asking me for documents and records, or perhaps even a testimony against them in a court of law. So although I'm not pursuing any action there, she is livid and mad and very angry about the situation, and I think she has right to be in the way that she was treated by them, and I fully support her in her actions there. At this point, I'm self-managing the properties, and I'll be talking a little bit more about that in my series on passive income, on how I am going about self-management and some of the tools that I am using to take that on. I feel very good about this decision. So that's all I have for this episode. I apologize that the content is not all sunny and wonderful and warm fuzzy feelings. I have a very toxic, very twisted, severe dark feeling going through this entire experience, and I'm very much looking forward to getting out of Florida and getting away from this property management company and this whole situation, and moving forward in my life and looking for closure. I would ask that if you see me in the future, I really don't want to discuss all this stuff happening down in Florida. I want to put it in the past. I don't want to think about it. I don't want to talk about it. I want to move on to more positive, nurturing things in my personal life. And I hope you can support me in that. Thank you so much for watching. Savor the moment, and I'll see you in a future episode.